how we got in and why we got in. So we can just dialogue because, think about what it really costs you to get in. We're talking about the barrier to entry compared to other industries. Come on, I mean, let's take a
Mm.
look at it, right? Real estate versus insurance versus being a public accountant, attorney, right? Add in doctor in there. Come on, I mean, where else can you go where you can get and start a practice? At the cost of the investment like we're seeing here. And I think people, we forget about that opportunity, or we forget about the opportunity to truly, um, be able to bring, real estate, to our lives and treat it as a business. And my question is, and I've been asking this question is, what if we came in with the student's mindset that of a doctor or an attorney? Meaning being
Mm.
okay with, because here's the thing, I mean, after a while, just after paperwork and doing the paperwork, I mean, that's it. That's really it. You know how to sell a house. And yet, how do you turn it from a practice to actual business? That's where the learning curve lies, right? That's where the ability for us to truly become more and grow more and create a cash flow yielding business. That's what we're talking about here. And then what I see is most agents, we get the license, say, all right, whoo, all right, glad I made it. That's it. That's it for education anyway. And I'm going to go out there sell homes. And no judgment, it is what it is. I think oftentimes you forget a little bit about what we can do, and obviously we look at the earnings and we say, "Wow, I just made 100,000 in however many transactions. I just made 200,000. I made X, Y, Z, right?" And looking at that no financial ceiling, are we truly taking advantage of what we can do in this business and what this company offers us? And when we look at based off of the average salaried individual, they peak income, by the way, on average 45 to 49. So
Mm.
the average person, a salaried person, peaks in income at ages 45 to 49, and that's not backwards for me. Especially if you're working in an industry or a career where you've been there for 10 years, you've been there for 5 years, you've been there however long and more, right? And you've mastered and you're in master on your craft, but you don't get paid anymore. I don't know. Those are just things that I think
Mm.
about. And so, one of the things that I love about this industry as well, and again, these are reasons for us to love this industry, that we get to choose the freedom of how we work. Right now, the thought about how we work though is that because there's so many different ways for us to choose to lead generate and run our business, that almost becomes analysis by paralysis. So what happens when we take the complex and turn it simple, we have a focused decision or focused area that we choose to move forward in. One thing that I find and we talk about regularly is it's a concept of being in self mastery. And if you don't know, Gary Keller actually created the 6 personal perspectives. If you've never heard it and or listened to it or been a part of that class or course, it's phenomenal because it gives us the groundwork for the mindset of a millionaire, right? And Gary Keller's never worked for anyone who's never been a millionaire before or prior to starting Keller Williams. And he found that they move in certain ways, obviously, and based off of that, he found that there's 6 perspectives that millionaires have and always use to go out there and use to achieve their goals. And it's literally a system. It's a goal achievement system. And one of the systems, one of the pieces to that system is called committing to self mastery. And the concept of committing to self mastery is just virtually us understanding personally who we are inside, right? Knowing our personality, knowing our behavior, because the beauty of this business is that where else could you go where you can have access to the hundreds of and the thousands of different top agents, performers out there, and understanding that they all have different personalities and behaviors, and yet they still have the ability to earn a magnificent income. And it just goes down to being at peace with how you choose to show up and knowing yourself first, your inner work self, right? So being in self-mastery, we know our strengths, we know our weaknesses, we know the opportunities within ourselves and how we can continue to get better. And we know that first before we take on what's outside of us, the external, right? The skills out there that it takes, and it's to be great in real estate and be a great producer in real estate. So if we're talking the skill of lead generation, what type of lead generation do you choose to be great in? Right? Are you at peace with? And can you actually, don't shoot the messenger, and yet can you actually have fun doing? Right? What type of lead gen can you have fun with? Well, so here's the thing, because when you know your personality style, if you're highly social, maybe you're a high influencer, maybe your best form of lead gen is events. Right? If you're a driver and you're like, you know what, I couldn't get there fast enough, give me a phone, give me some numbers, and I'm gonna dial it. Right? That was me when I first got in. And I'm gonna dial, right? I used to dial 70 people a day. I used to talk to 70 people a day, expires, right? To be able to set 3 appointments a day. That was me. I was like, you know what? I couldn't get there fast enough. Some of us beat on the microwave to go quicker, and I'm that guy, right? And so when we were talking about being able to be in mastery, maybe if you're a high analytical personality style, maybe you thrive off the numbers. Maybe you thrive off of online lead generation and conversion, because you can tell the metrics of cost per impression, cost per click, cost per lead, right? And we can get some of those metrics and use that to be able to be more efficient and generate and convert at a higher level. What are you hearing me say? What are you hearing?
Following your strengths, right?
Know what you're good at. Like know what you're good at, and just tackle that and do it. And not really just because somebody else is good with FSBOs or making those phone calls, maybe you're not. That's okay. So knowing that that's okay is also good.
I love that.
I agree. Yeah, everyone does things differently.
Everybody does. And here's the thing, we get caught up in, and here's the bold law alert, right? Comparing our inside with other people's outsides and saying, well, they're doing that, they're making a ton of money, I'm gonna go do that, even though I could. It's like a nails to a chalkboard kind of thing, right? It's like, oh, I could never do that, and yet they're doing it and they're making a ton of money, so I'm gonna go do that, right? So, when we're talking about being very focused in, the freedom of us being able to choose how we work and how we show up. Let's talk about flexibility of calendar. If you said, you know what, I'm tired of putting in that time for somebody else's calendar, I'm gonna go out and choose my own hours, and guess what? No hours is not an option. Right? No hours is not an option. We don't get to say, you know what, I'm not working today, or I'm not working this week or this month, and expect to make money. Because the day that we sacrifice our lead generation is the day that we sacrifice our income 90 days ago. Right? So what are we doing to make lead gen fun and continue to do that every single day? And the beauty of this is that because of, we all have priorities. We all have a certain life, right? Where either we're working in a certain company or career, and we're not ready to let that go yet, and yet we're looking at generating and growing our real estate business. You can do that, by the way. And you can do that and be great at it and be successful, because here's the thing, success is relative, right? Your 10 transactions a year, that's your 10 transactions a year. Be grateful, be happy about that, be proud. Your 100 transactions a year or more, be grateful, be proud of that, right? And so when we're talking about what we can do to continue to move forward and prioritize and be at peace with what we're doing, I mean, Wendy Papasan, Dave Papasan's wife, the co-author of The Millionaire Real Estate, phenomenal lady. 10 years ago, she gets into business, and she said, you know what, number one, I'm a mom first and a wife. Everything outside of that, I don't care about. That's it. That's where my priorities lie. So when it came into this business and said, you know what, I'm gonna run this business between the hours of 10 and 3. That's all I have to give. Between the hours of 10 and 3, that's all I'm gonna do. And so between the hours of 10 and 3, how do you think that she showed up? Do you think that she showed up pretty prioritized, pretty focused within those hours? Absolutely. And that allowed her to close 18 transactions her first year. Fast forward 10 years in, $100 million she rounds out 2019 in production. Yeah, I know, right? And so when we're looking at that, and here's the thing, she focused on just getting better every single day, every single year, right? Just growing on what she has, right? 1% growth per day, right? Doing 1% more, 1% better than we did yesterday. Over a year, consistent, that's 365% growth. At least, right? So what can't we get done? So, and we look at, well, wow, yeah, I can come in here, and if you're anything like me, I was the guy who said, I'm going to work 12 hours today because I love this business, I'm going to do it. And yet long hours are not virtuous, right? And here's the thing, are we actually making money through those 12 hours? Are we doing the things all 12 hours in that case to generate income? And are we confident that every single day that we're stepping into this business that we're making money? If we're not confident, I'll give you the 5 rocks, the 5 top 20%, such that by doing it will lead to income and transaction and deal flow. Number 1, prospect. Oh, shocker. Sorry. It wasn't new. Number 2, lead follow-up. Number 3, appointments. Number 4, negotiations. Number 5, skill building, scripts, role play. I know, nothing new. It's like that same old flavor that you had. I wish I had another flavor for you. I'm sorry. That's it. All right. That's all you get. Plain Jane. Yeah, here's the thing. Sorry for anyone called Jane out there. I apologize. I'll never use that again. Yeah, here's the thing. That's what it is. Right. And as we're having a conversation about this, it's are you doing those 5 things every single day? And what would your life look like in the event that you did those 5 things every single day? What couldn't you accomplish? What couldn't you purchase? What couldn't you invest in? What couldn't you do by doing those 5 things every single day? Now, are there going to be days we slip up? Yeah, it's going to happen. What do you hear me say? Mark, you want to say something?
I was hitting my mouse by accident, but I'll say, what can you do? You can do anything you want, really, right?
Yeah.
You can buy anything you want. You can reach for anything you want if you do that every single day.
Well, hey, here's the thing. When we do that every single day, what we forget about real estate being a true inside opportunity to invest. And I'll share with you what I mean by that. Because, where else can you go? What other industries can you be in where you can take advantage of insider information without getting locked up? Look up Martha Stewart. if you haven't remembered that conversation, all she did, she took information that somebody else, shared with her, insider information, traded on it, made more money, made a ton of money. She got locked up for it. Did she hurt anybody? No. And yet at the same time was in an unfair advantage. Here's the thing. Do you have an unfair advantage being in the position to lead gen every single day, finding new sellers that are on the market, and within creating win-win agreements, disclose, right? Can you capitalize on insider information in this business ethically? Absolutely, right? Absolutely. And we don't look at that way. Sometimes Gary Keller, he said this. He said, he was baffled at the amount of times agents would go out there and take a listing and go out and find a buyer versus going out there and finding a partner to invest with. What would it look like if you actually created your own iBuyer program and were able to market to it? By the way, 90% of iBuyers who inquired on that program, 90% ended up selling within 12 months. 60% ended up being agent listings. Is that a valid form of lead generation in today's market? Absolutely. And how do you set up your own iBuyer? I don't have the money. Well, partner with people who have the money. I can tell you right now, I can guarantee you have the deal, the money will flow. The money will show up. We've never had more money in this country sitting on the sidelines than we have today. There's never been more equity tied up in homes and property than we have today. We've never seen more cash on the sidelines. So when you find the deal, the money will flow to you. Could you out there and talk to an investor, a potential investor, and say, hey, investor A, if I were able to find you a property at 80% of the dollar, 85% of the dollar, 90% of the dollar, and still cash flow, and you get a 10, 12, 15% annualized rate of return every year, would you buy it? A majority of us, we'd say, heck yeah, I'd buy that. No questions asked if you give me those terms. Right? And would you buy it? Oh, by the way, could we take it a step further? Here's how we can play it through in an ethical manner and disclosing and letting everybody know what's going on, making sure they're all win-win agreements and in the right scenario for that seller who has to sell quick and get out or doesn't want to have to take on the hassle of getting things ready. Could you, under those terms at 80 to 85% of the dollar cash flow and a rate of return that's in that double digits, territory, could you go to investor A and say, hey, I've got other investors who are interested, and here's the thing, I'll give you this deal, and yet what if I put in my commission and got a piece of the pie, sacrificing the short-term cash flow for the long-term gain, being an owner or a part owner of the property? Could you do that? Again, just different ways to look at things, right? Just different ideas there. Because here's the thing, what I do know is that we've got an epidemic of people not knowing how real estate can impact our wealth. Right, let's get out of talking transactions. Do you want to buy a home versus are you interested in building wealth through investing in real estate? Those are two different dialogues, by the way. One is transactional, one is consultative. All right, let's be in that consultative mindset regularly, because when we do that, we show up differently. Gary Keller says the best salespeople are educators first. I'm gonna say that again. The best salespeople are educators first. How might you show up if you decided to be an educator first in your business? How might your presentations change? How might your lead generation change if you decided to be an educator first? Right? So when we look at where we can educate to, let's talk about the fact that there's the average net worth of a renter is $5,200 compared to that of a homeowner being $238,000, for the 45 times net worth difference from one property being owned. All right, if you take a picture of the slide, recreate it, make it yours. Is this a marketing piece that you could put out? Make it yours, right? And have that dialogue. Come from that conversation of education, because we know the challenges right now with certain things such as student loan debt. Oh, student loan debt. If you're not, I almost use some words there, I almost used them, right? And here's the thing, student loan debt is a challenge, is a problem. And yet, what if you went to your past clients and those who own homes and saying, hey, you've got small kids. What if I showed you how to invest utilizing kiddie condos? Meaning that you purchase a property for your kids, right? Put a renter in it. Fast forward 10, 15, 18 years, you've got your college fund already paid for, on top of having the ability to have a seed capital for your kids to start a business, to own a home, to et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now we're talking. Could you go to kellerinc.com? By the way, go to kellerinc.com. Get the Millionaire Real Estate Investor resource guide that allows you to actually, literally, it's already made investor workshop kit, complete with handouts and complete with a PowerPoint presentation for you to turn your clients into investors. What if you turned enough of your clients by doing digital presentations regularly, bi-weekly or once a month, inviting people, and your lead generation is simply, hey, how's it going? Who do you know that wants to tune in on a workshop that I do monthly on how to build wealth through investing in real estate? Could you generate referrals that way? Is that a great form of lead gen? What if your business, every single year you had your prospects highlighted, a tag that said hold investor, right? And those people are the people who've came to your workshop and have said, you know what, Brian, I have a stretch goal of buying one property every single year. Or Brian, I have a stretch goal of buying one property every other year, or whatever it looks like. Could you line up, did you have and start January 1st every single year with 10, 20, 30 plus investors, people who have said, I am interested in owning another home every single year for the next 5 years? What does that do to your business? I mean, come on now. We say, you know what, I got 30 units in the bank already, January 1st. January 1st, well, all right, let's go out and analyze some property. Let's go find some property for my clients. Who's ready? And going into October, if you already had that set up, could you go in and have that dialogue and say, well, hey, I know that you're interested in investing again. So just so I know, and because I have a whole list of people who are interested, when would you like to be in your next investment property? Now allowing you to forecast your income and project who you have to work with and who you have to be looking for property for in any given moment. Oh, by the way, if you want to learn how to forecast your income, I'll talk to you a little bit about doing that in a video that I'll send you by just being on this session. And so, Mark, once we post this video, I'll be highlighting this, and we'll get the link out for our friends to be able to get access to that video. And I'll walk you through how to monetize your pipeline using opportunities, and really what it means for you to be able to know at every given moment. Because here's the thing: one of the things that we don't touch base on regularly enough is the cultivate section in opportunities. It's a truly an opportunity for us to know who's going to buy, sell 30 days out, 60 days out, 90 days out, a year out. And you could see where your gaps are based off of who you have buying in your pipeline and selling in your pipeline. Just saying. Just saying. So what are you hearing me say? What's my house, please?
It's kind of funny that you bring that up, because I was on a team previous to being on my own, and there were some investors that were in my pipeline who I still am in contact with, but they kind of went to the wayside as far as like looking, like it got stale or boring for them.
Mhm.
So the fact that you brought that up, I think I have two. I know two's not a lot, but that's two more deals that I probably wouldn't have made.
It's
So
awesome.
thank
Absolutely.
you for bringing that up, because all I'm thinking about is where do I get a listing or how do I help that buyer? I didn't really turn it around and see it in that different perspective.
Go where the money is. Gary, well, a great, thank you for that, Nina. I appreciate it. A great, if you've never heard of Grant Cardone, great guy, great motivational speaker, and he talks about he's built his wealth off of real estate investing. And he has this concept of wake up every single morning and ask yourself, who has my money? Who's got my money, right? Go to where the deal flow is. Go to where the cash is. Go to where people have the money to be able to transact, right? And market and work to stay in front of those people. Thank you for that, Nina. Who else? What else are you hearing? I'll take one more. One more, please.
It's bringing you're leading through contribution. You're providing education, as you said. Being educated first is what the best salespeople are. So if it's this type of investment process you're going to go through in educating your clients, and you can bring, Nina mentions you have two, but if you go to your database and have this discussion with your database, you may have two more, four more who would be willing to jump into that, especially at this time.
And could you potentially create partners?
Mm-hmm.
People who are interested in partnering with you on ownership of property. You
Yeah.
find it, you get entitlement to it, right? You get a piece of the pie. You find it, you manage it, you're the project manager, all the above, and you get a piece of the pie. Now we're talking long-term wealth building, right? One thing that I don't think I mentioned is how do you make lead generation fun, right? Not only do we look at it as helping people and connecting those dots and being the educated first, um, you know, do an assessment on yourself, right? First, look at what all your strengths are. So list out your strengths, and then go out and list out what you're excited to do, like what you're happy doing, and then look for patterns in between the two and see if there's ways that you can come up with great lead generation, a great method of lead generation based off of what your strengths and what you enjoy doing. So we got a little deep there, and I always like to break the ice a little bit, and so I want to know whose home this is. Right? I've never seen it before where you've got wallpaper on the ceiling. Come on, that's creative, right? I mean, on the back of the door too. That's strong, my friends. And the matching couch to boot. Come on, right? Here's the thing. Here's another one. This is for your cooking show enthusiasts. This is a kitchen, by the way. So imagine being able to interview your guest while being able to cook the eggs at the same time. Come on, there's a lot of love there. Uh, Real life MLS photos, my friends. Couldn't make this up. How about this one? This next one is my personal favorite. It's kind of like I call it this pit stop, right? So just in case you had to relieve yourself before you made it up the stairs. So this is what I call the pit stop here, right? We're right halfway through the middle of the staircase. All right. Let me handle business and then make my way up the rest of the stairs, right? Amazing, amazing. I couldn't make this up. All right, it comes with a view. Check that out. So as we get back to business, and now this is probably one of my favorite slides here. I love this conversation, and this is truly the where else can you go? What other industries? And again, more reasons to love this business and fall in love with this is where else can you go where you can turn this salesperson gig and turn it into a business where you start out and I do it, right? I do everything. I do the lead gen. I take the listings. I work the buyers, and I turn it into it, and then I do all the admin, right? This concept through career visioning is a great course called career visioning, and it goes, and the concept is I do it, right? And so you're on the left hand side, it's I doing everything up until you get to the top of the triangle, and then you hire your first admin. You bring your first admin, and now we are doing it, right? We are doing the administrative tasks. We're setting up the listings. We're doing the marketing. We're doing et cetera, et cetera. And then when they get good enough, now it's they do it, right? They do it. They take it on, and I'm taking on that time back, that 30 to 40 hours of admin time back, and I'm putting that back into lead gen, or I'm putting that back into family time, or divvying it up and saying half family and half lead gen, right? Changing my calendar up, right? And then once they get to the point of it's theirs, or meaning they own it, they own the role, they own the opportunity, they own it. That's where we're talking about being truly able to grow a big business. That's where we go from being an independent practitioner to being a business owner, right? And here's how it leverages out. So in that order, by the way, I do the lead gen, I take the listings, I work the buyer, and then it goes to we do the admin, right? And then we start to leverage out the sales. Starts with showing assistant, maybe you get a buyer's agent in there, turn it into a buyer's agent. And then you go and you leverage out the listings taken, right? And then the last thing to leverage out is the lead generation. So it's that concept of I do it, we do it, they do it, and then theirs, right? It's theirs. What would it look like? What would your business look like when you have multiple people, whether it be multiple admins or multiple salespeople or listing agents in your business who have that ownership of the task and the roles that you've been able to present to them based off of being able to create opportunities within your world that they want to jump on, and now it's theirs. I mean, this is the conversation of you being able to leave and go on vacation and come back to more pendings and under contracts than when you left. Let me say that again. So, right, this is the concept of you being able to leave on vacation and come back to more business than when you left. Now, this is not a conversation about paperwork, by the way. This is not a conversation about flyers, because most agents, they come in this business and say, I got it figured out. I know how to do the paperwork. I know how to do the flyers. I know how to put a deal together. I know how to close 10, 20, whatever transactions a year. And yet, do you know how to scale from that? Most agents are the bottleneck to their own personal business, meaning that it never grows beyond them because it's I am doing everything. And yet that anxiety of moving from an I to a we to a they, meaning that we're bringing in other people in our world and we're like, ugh, I don't see it, right? That's where leadership is necessary. That's where understanding this book and these books, right, that allow us to truly take this is a playbook, by the way. This is not a book. Don't look at it as a book. This is a playbook. This is a blueprint, right? This is the model. This is a system that allows us to grow a big business, to go from a salesperson to a business owner, right? From going to, transactions to millions of dollars in gross commission, whatever you choose, you build it the way you want it. I used to tell my agents, hey, our AOC members, jump in and tell us what you want. It's like Burger King, have it your way. Right? Copyright infringement. Please don't report me. So this is how we turn this is the business, the blueprint that allows us to generate a systematic business that is kicking off an abundant amount of cash flow, right? And then this system, by the way, is the system that allows us to manage the income and turn it into passive wealth and income generation. Generational, right, wealth is in these conversations here. The Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, the Millionaire Real Estate Investor. Generational opportunities. They're twins, by the way. They're a package deal, right? So I would recommend that we take it on. Now, these books, by the way, and this is not a concept about money. We're not talking about the money here, right? On the cover, it says it's not about the money. It's about being the best. So whether you're doing a great business and you're running a great business based off of, doing 10, 20 transactions, right on, keep going. Success is relative, right? Or if you're doing, you're intending to go out there doing a couple hundred transactions, right on, keep going. Yeah, this is the concept of really working to be the best that you can be and diving in, because Gary Keller, I mean, the brilliance of this guy right here, this man has allowed us to have a franchise within a franchise. Think about that. Because what is a franchise really? Really, it's a system. It's a system. It's a way of doing things. It's a way of marketing. It's a ready-made approach, so that way you don't have to think twice. What does a great coach do? The great coach keeps things so simple for you, so that way you can go out there and just execute the plays. There's no creativity in success. If success leaves clues and we're standing on the shoulders of giants, this is not something to sleep on. Have we made this a blueprint, a manual for how to grow a big business? Right? The ability for us to own a franchise within a franchise. We're talking about that. Look at this. Comparing other franchises out there across the country. Give me 200 grand, I'll give you 80 back. Does that sound like a deal? Yeah, not over a deal for not for a year, snapshot 3 years, right? Give me 2,500, I'll give you 100K in this business. Give me 2,500, you can get 100 million in production back for 2 to 3 million in gross commission income. That's where everybody has started, by the way. What does it look like when we take this approach? When we're comparing these franchises, and what does it take to really, you're looking at $124,000 investment to open up a Kona Ice to earn 90 grand. And what is a Kona Ice anyway? It's an ice cream truck, basically. Shaved ice. It's great, by the way. I've never had the tastiest water possible. I mean, flavored water is great. And yet at the same time, yeah, look at that return that you're getting. And yet, what if we showed up and we said, you know what, I'm ready and prepared to break that initial investment up because of the lowest cost up front of being $2,500. And yet, what if I dedicated $10,000 a year towards my education and my growth in this business specifically? Right? What if I came into the mindset of this business and said, I'm an educator, and so such that I'm an educator, I've got to be educated to be an educator. What if I went ahead and focused on growing a big business and learned how to grow a big business by going to as many classes and courses as possible on how to grow a big business? By the way, we're the #1 training company across all organizations worldwide, across all industries worldwide. It's like going to Harvard, Stanford, whatever your preferred school or top grade Ivy League is. It's like being in Harvard or something like that. Would you go to pay the tuition necessary to go to Harvard just to skip class? Would you take out the debt possible just to skip class? No, you wouldn't. And yet we come in because we have $2,500, what it is, whatever. 90 to 120 days. I got my license, made a sale, perfect, got my money back. Now I'm in this business. No judgment, and yet that's what the average agent thinks. And yet, why do we fall out of love with real estate? Why do we fall out of love? We talk about, well, we don't know what to do. We just talked about that. Right? Do we know what to do? We know what to do. And if you told me I didn't know, you don't know what to do, then I'd ask you, have you read this? Have you read this multiple times? Right? And we'd have that conversation. I don't know what to do. Okay, great. We solved that for you. How about how to do it? What if I told you that the top 100 agents, and the top agents making hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars a year, are making 80 to 90% of their business and income from only 3 sources? 3 to 5 sources max. Are you ready for this?
Yes.
Secret sauce here, right? Referrals, right? Repeat business, and SOI and database. Oh my God, I didn't know this. Right? I'm sorry I didn't bring another flavor to the table. I know there's like 32 flavors. I only brought one. And it's the same that we've been having. It's like eating the veggies over and over and over again. I'm tired of veggies, right? Yet season them up a little bit. Add a little flavor, add some sauce to it, whatever it is. Eat your veggies first, right? Because we know that that's going to create great long-term growth. Eat your veggies first. This is the veggies, right? Bold pivot is the veggies. Are we okay with that? Top 3 sources. And then you learn the rest as you go. Right? We learn the rest as you go, and we keep going, keep moving forward. We also, why we fall out of love with this business is because we cram too much in. Keep it simple, right? We talked about prospecting, lead follow-up. Did we talk about that? The top five things the top 20% of agents are going to do? Yeah, prospect, lead follow-up, appointment set, negotiating scripts and dialogues. And yet, how do we know what should go in the calendar and when it should go in the calendar, right? If we go back to the concept of the one thing, we look at the top 3 areas or 3 things that we time block. We time block our time off first, right? We time block number 2, our lead gen time. And by the way, lead gen has 3 parts to it. Prep time, right? That's where we figure out who we're calling and why we're calling them. Activity, right? Action time. Go do the calls, go do the activity. And then finally, the one that's most shortchanged is maintenance time. How are we doing on maintaining the lead gen afterwards? That's where you go back and you update your database. That's when you go back and you update your notes, send out those handwritten cards. Maybe it's those conversations that you got to follow back up with, somebody needing a contractor or an attorney or et cetera. Like that's the maintenance time. And then finally, the last thing that we time block is so we time block time off, time block lead gen time, and then we time block planning time. Planning time, huh? So Gary Keller, at the earlier the beginning of this year, he says he was asked, all right, well, where do you feel most agents, fall short? What could we do to start the year off at a bang? And he says, well, this is not really a once a year thing. This is a year round issue for most agents. And he says the year round issue is most agents fail to achieve and execute on planning time. Planning time, right? Do
What
you
does
have?
that mean?
I'm sorry. Go for it.
What does that mean? Like,
Great question, right? So do you have a standalone date and time in your calendar every single week that you go back and you reflect on what you did, what you were able to accomplish, and what you've got to do for the upcoming week, right? And making sure that your time and the planning time is also making sure that you're time blocking your time off, time blocking your lead gen time, all three parts to that, and time blocking your next planning time, right? So are we consistently being able to reflect on how we did, how we're doing on the past week, and what we're going to get done? Are we time blocking our top 20%, right? And the time off, obviously, and other planning time. So for me, this looks like every Sunday afternoon. I've been doing this for over 5 years now. Every Sunday afternoon, I'm focused on what I did and what I'm going to do for the next week. This is when I'm looking at my 135 again. I'm looking at my 411. I'm looking at my other tools that I use to keep myself on track and what I'm going to do. Right? Just those little things. It's right. Nothing that I've said so far is like, oh my gosh, right? I didn't know this. No, it's the little things that we're talking about today that create, exponential growth. Right. So when we're talking about that, failure to follow up the plan, right? So we're talking about plans fail when we get complicated. Keep it simple, right? Our ability to execute drastically increases when we keep simplicity in the picture. And if you want to water down your ability to execute and get things done, make it complex. All right, let's keep it simple. Right? When we keep it simple, the idea is our goal is to focus on growing the business and then running it. And now we know how to grow the business by doing the transactions. Yet let's focus on being able to stay out of the way of growing the business. Sometimes our business grows to the extent that we do, bold law alert. How are we doing at continuing to grow and learn what we can do to continue to implement and grow? And we'll talk about that in a second, right? And then being overly committed. We don't prioritize. We talked about that a little bit. Inability to say no. So there's another concept there. Inability to say no. How this shows up is, how when we say yes to something, we say no to other things, right, that we could be doing. And so the inability to say no, here's an example is if, first thing that we wake up and we look at in the morning, typically it's, our alarm, right? Typically our alarms are in our cell phones now. So we open our cell phone up, we grab the cell phone, we're looking at it. First thing, it's either social media or emails. I know because I'm guilty of it at times too, right? And so social media or emails. We open up the emails. What are emails really? It's basically other distractions, yes, and other people's priorities, right? Other people's urgencies. How are we doing at looking at emails first versus actually what if we actually took on and set up a 66-day goal to create a new habit around looking at our goals first thing in the morning? Right, our ability to achieve our goals is directly correlated to the ability to build a relationship with the goals. Just like any good relationship, there's communication. Are you communicating with your goals? Are you seeing what's happening, what you're doing well, and what you're not doing well? And are you seeing where you're falling short on? So making sure that we have an understanding of that we're connecting with our goals and we're reviewing it on the daily. Well, what might life look like if we watch those goals every single day in our progression towards achieving it? Just an idea. And we don't delegate. We talked about the delegation thing, right? It's only me. Only I can do this, right? And then manage our expenses. Early on, and I think you've probably seen a lot of content on social media or KW Connect where we're talking about cut your expenses, cut. Right? If you've done that, great job. And if you haven't, get to it. And when we're talking about cutting our expenses, that's a monthly occurrence right now. We're constantly going back. If you cut it once, great job. Go back and see what else you can cut. There's 3 parts to cutting your expenses, right? If you were to go back and you get your last 6 months of your expenses or last 12 months of your expenses, you're going to highlight three parts. You're highlighted by A color. That's one color. And your A's are the ones that you can't do without, right? B's are the ones that you're like, you know what? I could use it, right? I could use it, right? And in C's, you're like, you know what? I don't think that I need this. And then your D's, those are like, why do I even have this? right? So A, B, C, and D's, right? Color code your expenses by those letters, right? And then every single month. Now, here's the thing. 1 month, you might be able to have your B's turn into A's or your B's turn into C's, depending on where you're at. So that might be evolving every single month. So that's why we're always going back to it every single month. Where can I cut? Right? So when we're talking about that, it's just a constant conversation of making sure that we're managing our expenses. And that goes from being a salesperson to transitioning to being a business owner. Well, let me go back. When you're talking about leverage and having leverage in your life, you're also talking about, do we have the right people doing the right things versus the wrong people doing the wrong things in our world, right? Do you have people in your life, right? And this goes to for your lenders as well. If you don't have an actual team, yes, you do have a team. How are your lenders doing? How are your transactions coordinators doing? How are your staff, your people in your world, how are they doing and supporting you? Right? Are they sucking energy or are they bringing energy? Right? Look at that little small quote there in the left-hand corner, doing things that suck energy and working with people that suck energy. One of the great things about this business that we could choose to fire people, our clients, right? We don't need to keep every single client. The only way that we feel that we have to keep a client and feel tethered is because we don't have a client to replace them with. And that goes back to the concept of lead gen. And when we're making lead gen fun and we're enjoying a lead gen and it's giving us energy and bringing passion to the table, think about that. I don't know about lead generation, passion, energy, what? Right? When we're doing that, that gives us the ability and the empowerment to say, you know what, client, you're acting up. You're no longer a client from this point, right? Whatever that looks like in your world. And when we're talking about time blocking and sticking to the calendar and the schedule, making sure that we're in that first thing that we put in our calendar, that time off. Are we spending time to generate and keep our health? Right? If you don't have your health, you don't have anything. So spiritually, physically, emotionally, financially, how are we doing in these areas of health? Time block that one thing. Why do we lose the fun? Here we go. And then we'll be wrapping up with this. So we don't keep the fun in the lead generation. We just talked about that. We learn it, get ahead of it and say, wee, right? Enjoy your time in the lead gen, right? If you can't say wee right when you're doing it, then maybe you could reconsider the type of lead gen that you're doing. Just a thought. Yeah, and the wide reasons why you don't have fun with the lead generation is because we don't connect what we do with helping people. Are we having fun with what we're doing, right? Connect what we're doing with helping people. And then the next part of that is we become too attached to the job money, right? Which doesn't allow us to delegate the jobs that we don't like to do well. It's that concept of only I can do the paperwork, only I can do the flyer, only I can, right? Get to a place to where we can afford the leverage and systematically put the leverage in place to allow us to do the things that we love to do, right? Let's keep it simple. And here's the second part of that, right? We invest in lifestyle. We invest in lifestyle versus people or lead generation. Hey, I've done it. I've had the great month and gone out and bought a car. I've done it, right? And you can instead of buying the car, can I put an assistant in place earlier, right? Again, no judgment. And yet these are all just things. We're getting better every single day. Can we grow 1% every single day? And this is a part of that growth. So I appreciate y'all tuning in because this is the dialogue that we're having. This is where we go from being a salesperson to a true business owner. A lot of the different things that we've talked about today. And you said, you know what, Brian? This conversation sucks. I didn't get anything so far, right? I trust that I turned it around in this dialogue right here. Here it is. Creme de la creme, right? If I could say that. Here it is. So when we're talking about the database side of the business, let's talk about it. The fact is, most agents don't have a true database and don't have a way to manage your contacts. And yet, if you came to me and say, hey, Brian, how do I make $2 million a year in gross commission income? I would say get to your database to 14,000 people in it as quick as possible and market to them 36 times a year or 3 times a month. Over time, that'll generate you the gross commission income that you're looking for. Right? Simple as that. Because here's the thing. I mean, I can tell you over 1,200 appointments, recruiting appointments that I've had, interviewing market share, majority, right? And having conversations with productive agents, I couldn't tell you, and I could actually tell you, that the percentage of agents that ran their business with one of these is shocking. Just by the simple task of getting out of one of these or off of a spreadsheet to going into a command-like system, and there is no like system of command. Command is the only system of what it is and its capabilities. And yet having a CRM, a contact relationship manager that you can use to manage, because look at the right-hand side. So you look at the size of the database times the average annual touches equals the total annual touches. For you to manage 484,000 touches a year to make $2 million in gross commission income, there's no way that you're doing this with a cell phone or a spreadsheet. No way. I don't believe it. I'm not buying it. If you are doing it, that means you have a whole lot of manpower or woman power, right? Being behind the scenes and helping you do what you're doing. And that's probably costing you more than it needs to. And yet when we bring a CRM into play, can we shore up the cracks? Because otherwise, how are we keeping track of the notes? How are we keeping track of the birthdays, the next times to follow up, right? The automated, the messages, automated content like the monthly neighborhood nurture. I don't know. I'm just saying. Get off my soapbox. So then the last one here is, we allow what we do to never be enough. That's a fine line type of conversation. Gary Keller says, the only difference between me and the industry is that I've never settled, right? And yet at the same time, also always be grateful for what it is that you have. My father once told me, you'll never be blessed with more unless you're grateful for what you currently have. Right? Are we appreciating what we have, especially in these times? It's hard to count your blessings, especially in these times. And yet, how are we doing at counting our blessings right now? Make it a habit. Be in gratitude. So obviously, you see here, lose your why. Stay connected with what you're doing, right? And connect what you're doing with helping people. So a quick little tidbit here before we sign off. Yet I did want to just talk a little bit about Bold Pivot, 2-minute pitch here. And yet Bold Pivot has actually started, although we have a real live launch date of the August 4th, we actually are having Coach's Corner every Wednesday up until our main launch date. So we already have about 4 Coach's Corners in the books, one with yours truly where I interviewed a lady, a young lady who was out of Texas who was able to generate or close, I believe, 3 seller listings, expired listings, people she's never met before, all digital, never met until at the signing table, right? And so she talks about how she did that. And even in 2 of those presentations, the sellers never turned on their webcam. So she did a presentation a one-sided presentation, no dialogue, no facial expression. Imagine doing a presentation to to the abyss, right? Just a name on the screen. Like me doing a listing presentation to Amber there. Amber, I don't know what your face is saying right now, right? I don't even know if you like this conversation. And if it wasn't for Mark, I wouldn't know if I was hitting the mark or not, right? If I was bringing the value. And yet imagine doing a presentation into the abyss that way. And then she talks about how she did that, the mindset of which also a solo agent who's closed 21 transactions over the last 2 months and puts a lot of that, appreciation to Bold Pivot, doing the 40 contacts a day, right? Obviously we talk about 40 contacts a day, and yet that's the standard. And yet, the whole goal and the things that we look for is, are you doing more contacts that you've ever done, right, in a day? Are you doing more contacts? Are you stretching yourself is the question, right? So that's what we're going to be talking about in Bold Pivot. We'll talk about the other 6 personal perspectives and bringing that mindset is, because here's the thing. When we get fatigued, it's halfway through the year right now. If you've ever followed sports or you follow athletes, you've ever been an athlete, or you just know and are self-aware, understand is as soon as the mindset goes and as soon as the fatigue sets in, I don't know about you, I'm tired, right? I'm tired right now because I'm working harder than I've ever worked, period. And yet at the same time, as soon as the fatigue sets in, the first thing that goes is our mindset. And as soon as the mindset goes, the actions follow. So how are we doing at staying on task, staying in the sharp, in the mindset, so that we're showing up for other people the way that we intend to show up? And we have to show up to give them encouragement that right now is still a great time to buy, sell, and invest in real estate. There's a lot of reasons why people may not feel like, hey, you know what? I don't know if this is the right time. If you can't translate that certainty, uncertain people flock to certain people, right? If you're showing up with the certainty and you're able to translate the confidence and translate the why of why it's important to buy, sell, and invest in record low interest. Come on. I mean, I saw something 2.97% for a 30-year these days. Huh. I mean, come on. I don't know where you're getting free money at right now. And so if people aren't buying right now in this market from you, they're going to buy from somebody. That one person that's able to translate the certainty of that it's still a great time to buy. And you can buy it virtually. right? We'll talk about setting up your business into a digital fashion to be able to build your business digitally. And if you've been Bold Pivot before, last time in May, and you're like, why should I come back in August? Thing is, where's your mindset right now? The second part of that is we're gonna have new conversation, new content as well. We have top 100 agents that we talked about that who are running those databases that we just alluded to. They're going to be coming in and interviewing and sharing and unpacking their business for us and talking more about that. So with that being said, I'm done. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw something in the chat box here that's a piece of value. BigRealEstateBusiness.com. Amber, I see you. I'm here. All right. I see you. Yeah. So BigRealEstateBusiness.com. So if you go to BigRealEstateBusiness.com, you're going to do a survey for me. Let me know how you like this conversation. BigRealEstateBusiness.com. And when you go there, once you complete the survey, I'm going to email you a video on how to set up your opportunity that we talked about. I walk through my command and I share with you how to walk through your opportunities. On top of, I'm going to provide you a checklist that I created. We got about $2,000 of man hours, woman hours in being able to put in and create a great checklist on how we create a duplicatable experience for our clients, how to set up the listing, or more so how to close the transaction on both buyer and seller side, what we're looking at for, all the above, everything that we need to do to close those transactions. I'm going to give you that system on how to, and also how to set it up in command. On top of, I'm going to send you a smart plan for how to generate and convert those leads in command as well. So I'm going to give you a whole bunch there as a thank you. Now, whether you sign up for Bold Pivot or not, my goal is that you sign up. Obviously, keep your mindset sharp for a low cost of $99 compared to a tuition of going to a Harvard or Stanford. Come on, you can't beat that. So with that, Mark, back to you. I appreciate you, brother. Bold.kw.com. Sign up today. Appreciate you.
Brian, thank you so much. It was awesome to have you. And if there's absolutely anything that we can do for you, let us know. Where in California are you for when it comes to, what was that?
Yes, you can sign up for Bold Pivot. That's
Sign Bold Pivot, writing that down. Also for referrals, where in California are you?
Southern California. So I'm right next to what was formerly called the happiest place in the world, Disneyland, and yet it's the quietest place right now. So yeah, we're there. We're around. So basically 30 minutes away from downtown LA.
Awesome. So send anyone we know who's ready to buy or sell there. We'll give you a call.
Absolutely. So Mark, I'm going to send you the recording to this video in a second. So if you would just record the post the video and then the links too, I'd be grateful.
Yes.
And any ahas, what you got out of this session? Any questions that I can answer for you before we sign off today?
Me, it's always the time blocking. I just recently discovered time blocking through COVID, and most of the office knows this. But what you got me with was the 3 parts of lead generation and planning time. Like those 2 things, I was like, oh, especially for me, the planning time. So it does make sense that you want to go back to your week, look it over and go, okay, did that work? Did that not work? What do I have to catch up on? So putting the time in there to do that instead of doing it between everything else. That is pretty key.
I love that one. Thank you for that. Anything else?
Like you can say no to a lead. I have a lead that's like actually making me crazy. She's so family oriented, but yet she doesn't care about my family time. So, and she's got a very extreme schedule rigid schedule that she has to follow, but she doesn't understand that yet. I have a schedule that I have other buyers and sellers, and she, gets a little attitude when I have to leave her to go show another buyer a property or have a showing at one of my listings. And it's like, I'm almost at the point like, you know what? I almost want to just let you go.
Yeah, it's a two-way street, right? And,
right.
And so in order for me to create that recipe of success through buying and or selling, you've got to follow the ingredients, right? You got to follow everything that I'm putting together for you. Because otherwise you're gonna create one of those what do you call those souffles that implode?
A meringue.
Call it a dud, right? A dud of a transaction. So thank you for that, Jane. I appreciate you. Anything else? One more?
enjoying lead generation. I still can't figure out anything that would make me happy. So that's going to be a continuing.
It's a process. It may be something that you have to reflect on, list out your strengths and review what you're really good at, so your strengths and what you like to do, and see if you can find any patterns in there. And go back to your personality style, right? If you haven't taken the assessment, Keller personality assessment, or a DISC assessment is also a good way to go. Either one of those, and yet see what you're good at, and you'll show some tendencies of where your strengths are, those traits, and then build your lead generation around that.
Hey, so Mark, change my KPA from agent services coordinator to agent, and let me know what that comes up with.
We'll do that, and we'll sit down and go over it.
All right.
I can dig it. All right, y'all. I appreciate you. Be well. Help me with that survey. Looking forward to sending you those resources. Keep doing what you're doing. Stay happy. Stay grateful. Stay healthy and blessed. And y'all have a great rest of your day. Okay.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you
Appreciate
very
it.
much.
Have fun.
Bye.
Oh, Mark, that was awesome.
You liked?
I loved him. He was
great.
amazing.
Well, I'm sure he is amazing, and was. He's still amazing even after the call is
Yes.
over.
But that was amazing.
Yeah.
I really liked that a lot.
And you want to know who used to coach him?
Too.
Adam Hergenrother.
Good.
Boom!
Don't stop the computer. That's really cool though. No, I really, that honestly, because like you all know, time blocking was like my big aha thing. But when he said that, I was like, well, fuck, that makes sense.
Well, I'm glad. Sometimes that's why you pull out people who are coming with a different voice from the outside and can give you a different perspective. Very much a similar message, but a different perspective, and maybe that's the one that catches you. And
Yeah.
that's what that's why we're going to continue bringing these great KW minds we have across the country into our Zooms.
And did Miss Amber already leave?
She did.
Oh! I wanted
She
to
did.
get to that little triangle thing where it was just like, I do, I delegate, right? I was like, Amber, delegate!
Yep, we all have something. We all have something we gotta focus on, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, is there anything else? Well, thank you guys for showing up. We're gonna post that. I know I was excited. We were trying to get it on live, but we kind of weren't able to get that. But we will post that on the site. We'll get that on the YouTube site as well, and then we'll get that out there so other people can see that. That was pretty good. I appreciate everyone for stopping in.
Thank you for putting it together, Mark.
No problem. You guys have fun.
Bye. I'm at
Bye.
the office if y'all need me. Come in.
Office is open,
Hello.
baby.
The door's locked if you come, Mark.
Okay.
All right.
I got to
Bye,
keep.
guys.
All right, bye.
Bye.